All right, everyone, we have to talk about some major hypocrisy. This is a CNN piece, so probably not a surprise why it would be hypocritical. Link in the description, archived, of course. Democrats and the left in general are currently invoking free speech. This particular article talking about, well, targeting hate speech would violate the Constitution. You are fundamentally correct. This is in response mainly to what Pam Bondi said, actually, the other day, which I thought was, incredibly stupid. And saying, whoa, there's a difference between free speech and hate speech. We're going to target you if you target others, which is like, what are you talking about, dude? She even used the exact same language that she's applying to the left to apply to a response to the left. Now, if you're talking about incitement, terroristic threats, things like that, of course, those are illegal already. Hate speech does not exist within the United States. Can I tell the left something? And I've been saying it for a very long time. We told you this already. We've been doing it for years. I've been targeted for censorship on multiple occasions. I've had hit pieces written up against me. I was included in a goddamn Wall Street Journal article. And there are some people where it's just a relentless tidal wave of nonstop defamation, attempts at censorship, attempts to organize boycotts and things like that to try to silence people. Culminating, of course, now in political assassination like we saw with Charlie Kirk. We've been telling you that this was a bad idea. We've been telling you that it was wrong. It's gone on for literally years. Well, over a decade at this point, actually. When you think about it, technically, I mean, that wave of political anti-speech really begins under the Obama administration. I mean, it comes to a crescendo more recently, certainly under the Biden administration, where the U.S. government was quite literally spying on and actively suppressing, illegally, by the way, and I agree with the left, I suppose, on this, illegally preventing people from communicating, from preventing people from holding meaningful dialogue. But they never listened. As long as it was the people that they didn't agree with getting censored, it was a-okay. Now, we have a different situation. The shoe is now on the other foot, of course, political dichotomies generally not being real entities anyway. And now people on the left are getting like, they're having their jobs discovered and getting fired from their jobs for crazy stuff they said. Jimmy Kimmel, we'll be talking about him separately. He's been shit canned at Disney now. But we warned you. We told you it was wrong and you had no problem with it and said, suck it up, Buttercup, and, Fifi's and, special pony and stuff like that. Special little snowflake. Oh, how fragile and easily melted you are, right winger. Yeah, you said like one sentence on Twitter and now we've destroyed your life. This was happening for years. Many of the people that I became familiar with, for example, in my career as, well, mainly at least, a political analyst, that's what I'm known for by most people, many of those people are gone. For years there, it was like being on a fishing trawler with an approaching hurricane, basically. And all these trawlers are out on the water, and I saw many of them sink, and many of them simply left. They fled because they knew they couldn't deal with it. Very few of us are actually left. Those of us who are outside of the orthodoxy of the uniparty and or far leftism, very few of us are actually left on the battlefield at this point, so to speak. Our trawlers didn't sink and we didn't flee. And some people who didn't want to flee, they sank too. So a lot of people, they've been destroyed. They've been victims of censorship and debanking and stuff. People have had careers ruined simply because they said something that offended at least one other individual who happened to have the right political ideology behind them. Now, people are being censored for a bit of a different reason. I do not support censoring, debanking, firing anyone simply unless they're a public servant or something like that, or they're a judge, they're a cop, a school teacher, publicly funded, something like that. I don't believe in debanking or censoring them simply because they happen to say something about Charlie Kirk's death or anything else under the sun that is considered offensive. Well, who cares if it's offensive? If you're offended, turn it off is my particular ethos. Yes, I still maintain my roots in that. I've maintained that for my entire adult life. When I was a liberal, that was what I said. When I was, well, not conservative, but more libertarian, that's what I said. Now that I've settled into a sort of classical liberalism, it's still what I say. If you're offended, ignore it, debate it, talk about it. Formulate an argument against it. The reason why the left isn't willing to do this, unlike Charlie Kirk, who did this habitually, by the way, which is the tragic irony here, the reason they're not willing to do this is because they always lose. Debated plenty of people with left-wing positions, Dabrowski and Burbank and all of these other people. They can't formulate an argument. They suck at debating. They're not good at dialogue. What they want is they want to create a construct, so a system, within which they feel comfortable. And then they want to simply enforce it on other people. Great example was the Burbank debate. My question was, hey, unions are fine. You want to unionize? That's great. Why should it be involuntary? Oh, well, because people, they get good stuff from collective bargaining, and so they shouldn't be able, they're basically stealing if they don't join the union because collective bargaining raised their wages by 0.5% or something. It's the same exact thing. The idea of using force to cause other people to go along with your particular policies instead of debating them and rationally thinking about whether they're good ideas or not. Charlie Kirk went out of his way for years to go and debate people with opposite ideologies on a number of issues. He did this constantly. And it wasn't all just for branding. Part of it was, hey, it's fun. I have a feeling that he had fun doing these sorts of things. Sad that he's dead. Some of those debates are pretty funny. And then he leaves behind a wife and kids, and his wife is basically taking up his sword and going whole hog at the moment. Not surprised, she's probably pissed. I can understand why. The left, to invoke this, though, it's like, okay, you're right, but you're right 10 years too late. You're fundamentally correct. I don't think that Pam Bondi is right at all. I don't think that we should be going after people simply for having what we would see as objectionable views. Because I've been victim of that. Some of you have been victim of that. Certainly a lot of other major content creators who I've been associated with, they've dropped off the face of the earth. They got driven out by a combination of the legacy media, big tech, and government, and intel agencies, bureaus adjacent to the government, trying to screw them over. For instance, with Joe Biden's pernicious attempts to censor people with regards to the election, with regards to the Voldemort disease and things like that, cross-platform on major platforms based in the United States. And this happened. And a lot of people, when confronted with this gargantuan wall of propaganda and censorship and hate, really, a lot of people, they won't absorb the information. Their eyes glaze over. They don't want to talk about it because it's so gargantuan, so obviously wrong, so obviously unconstitutional in every way, and so unethical, immoral, and illegal that it's too big for them. They can't even fathom it. Not unless they're part of it. If they were part of it, if they were one of those trawlers out in the hurricane, then they have a greater understanding of exactly how bad it got, especially on sites like YouTube, Twitter under its old leadership, sites like the Instagram, certainly anything meta-related. Constant censorship. Now, people who are making credible threats of violence and threatening people and saying, well, I wish and they're publicly, paid, they're a school teacher, but they're saying, hey, I'm glad Charlie Kirk is dead. I wish 10 more would die. Obviously, that's a little bit different from somebody expressing an opinion on a tweet that simply offends you because you think that it is wrong. Those are not the same thing. And being offensive is also not the same thing as shooting somebody. I think this is pretty clear. Meanwhile, you've got leftoid women doing the thing that they did with Richard Ramirez, the serial killer back in L.A. back in, what was it, the 80s, I think. Swarming around Luigi Mangione, basically being all lovey-dovey with him. Just showing that there are psycho chicks in the world. Don't stick your dick in psycho. It's not a good idea. Trust me. I know from experience. That's about all. Peace out.